She had assumed it was just another shift, a long day of mopping floors, doing dishes, and attempting to stay out of sight. But a single misstep, a mundane purchase, became something much larger. Whispers became looks, and looks became judgment. In the moment, she wasn't regarded as a woman struggling to make ends meet. She was seen as nothing more than the color of her skin. What she experienced next wasn't merely cruel. It exposed a truth too many refuse to acknowledge today. And the question is, how many more times are we going to hear this story before finally listening? Maria never asked life for much, simply the opportunity to work, keep her head down, and send money back home to her little sister. She slipped every morning into the big house where she was a maid, her uniform crisp, her eyes cast down. Her marble floors shone, her silverware sparkled like mirrors, but none of it ever showed her. To the family she served, she was invisible, useful, but not seen. She trudged through her days cautiously, counting every penny, stretching her wages to pay rent and groceries. To the outside world, she was merely a worker, one who was easily forgotten in a society that valued wealth and privilege. To Maria, however, every shift was about staying alive. She understood her position, or at least she believed she did. Then there was the day that changed everything. A thoughtless remark, a fleeting possibility, and an easy decision would soon put her in the glare of an unwanted spotlight. Immediately, every look weighed something, every whisper was a little more pointed, and the existence she had fashioned out of silent grit started to unravel. What Maria couldn't know was that one ordinary decision would not only test her, but expose the ugly truth of how the world still sees women like her. Maria had finished her shift late that evening. Her feet ached, her hands still smelled faintly of bleach, but she felt a small relief. Tomorrow was payday. As she departed the estate, she held the sharp credit card her boss had carelessly flung at her that morning. "Purchase what you require," he had told her. To Maria, it was not merely a card. It was an opportunity, perhaps even faith. She had only intended to purchase groceries and a little present for her sister. But the minute she crossed into the store, something shifted. The cashier's eyes remained on her uniform, then fell to the card. A hint of suspicion danced across his face. Maria kept her head dipped, handing the items over the counter, but murmurs began behind her. A line of two that were waiting whispered, audible for her to catch. "No way she can pay for that. Must be stolen." Scales up and on. Her chest constricted, but she remained silent. She had learned years ago that silence was preferable. The cashier hesitated, holding the card in his hand longer than he had to. "You sure you own this?" he asked, his voice heavy with incredulity. Maria's cheeks flushed with heat. She ached to tell him, to yell that she had worked for this opportunity, that the card had been bestowed upon her. But she did not have time to. A security guard emerged, hard eyes, hand close to his belt. Maria struggled to keep her voice steady. "It was left to me. I work for—" But the sentence was cut short as the guard interrupted her. "Move aside, ma'am. We're contacting the police." Around her, people gawked. Some sneered, some shook their heads. To them, she was not a diligent maid. She was a suspect, an issue, a thief. Every second drew out like an eternity as the guard called for reinforcements. Her groceries lay abandoned, the gift she had picked out for her sisters still in the basket. She considered her boss, the mansion with chandeliers and waxed floors. Would he listen to her? Or would this be the time her hard work came crashing down? Her fingers shook as the murmurs intensified. "People like her," a voice whispered. Another grumbled, "Always stealing." Maria wished she could vanish, but she couldn't. She was caught, between the card that had promised to be her salvation and the eyes that judged her with no evidence. The voice of the guard was commanding now, "Stay right there. Don't move." And in that moment, Maria saw the truth. Whether she worked twice as hard, sacrificed twice as much, her skin, her uniform, her position in society, all preemptively labeled her before she ever said a word. The siren howled in the distance, its wail growing louder with every ticking second. Maria's heart thudded as the store seemed to claustrophobically close in on her. She was no longer just struggling to make a purchase. She was struggling for her dignity, for her right to be, without being made to feel like a criminal. And as the flashing lights approached, one disturbing thought cut through the din. Would anyone listen to her version of events? The police cruiser skidded to a halt, red and blue lights staining the glass windows of the store. Maria froze, hands trembling, the card still grasped in her fingers. Two officers burst in, eyes meeting hers as if the verdict had already been given. The guard gestured swiftly. "That's her. Attempted to use a stolen card." Maria gasped. "No, please, it's not what it seems." But she was lost in the officer's shout. "Step back, hands where we can see them." Consumers took out their phones, filming as if it were entertainment. With every passing second, her world fell apart even more. She was not Maria the sister, the employee, the woman who scrubbed marble floors to the point that her knees hurt. She was the suspect, nothing more. An officer pulled the card out of her hand. His eyes squinted as if the fact that it was plastic itself made her guilty. "This is not yours," he grunted. Maria's chest constricted. The facts were so clear, but no one wanted to listen. She wanted to yell, to struggle, but terror immobilized her. And then, just as the handcuffs snapped over her wrists, the doors burst open. Her boss stepped forward, his face confused. Gasps swept through the store. "What's happening here?" he demanded.
The room went still, everyone staring from Maria, subdued and shaking, to the wealthy man in his iron suit. This was her time of reckoning. Would he stand up for her, or leave her to the judgments they had already collectively determined fit? Maria's tears obscured her eyes, but a single thought cut sharp through the blur. Her whole future now depended on whether he would see her, or see her the way the world had already seen her. The officer stiffened when Maria's employer attested to the truth. The card had belonged to him all along. The handcuffs snapped open, and behind lay pale red welts around her wrists, welts that would burn long after the metal disappeared. The crowd shifted awkwardly, their murmurs dying away into silence. But the harm was already done. Maria grasped her shopping bag, though her hands shook so violently that she could hardly manage to hold on to them. She kept her eyes downcast, not out of shame, but out of fatigue. No excuse, no apology, no correction could remove the shame of being treated as less than human. That evening, sitting by herself in her tiny flat, Maria relived the scene time and again. The look of judgment, the assurance of guilt before she had uttered a word. It wasn't about a credit card. It was about a world where status and skin color determine if you're believed or damned. And Maria's story is not hers alone. It echoes in every false accusation, every unjust arrest, every time dignity is stolen from someone simply because of who they are. These moments don't fade. They leave scars that follow people through life. The reality is Maria left that store free, but not unscathed. She left with a lesson the world continues to fail to learn. Injustice does not always come in a uniform or armed. Sometimes it comes with a glance, with a whisper, with a mere questioning of your worth. So the question is, how many more Mariahs are there going to have to go through this before we finally face the truth? How much more is silence going to trump justice? Because if what she went through makes you uncomfortable, it should. And perhaps that discomfort is where change starts.